Hello and welcome to another episode, who knows which one, of the Project Bag podcast. My name's Gemma and I'm coming to you as always from my home in Kent. It's been a while, let's get started. On the show for you this week, I'm splitting it into two parts. We're talking the usual knitting and crafty content, and then we're talking about a little thing that you might have heard of that might have happened over the past weekend in a little town called Edinburgh in a little place called Scotland. I mean, no one's heard of that, right? In normal podcast content, I have an FO for you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I do. And I cannot wait to show it off. I also have just one or two whips that have seen a little bit of action in this past fortnight. I have some pre-recorded material to talk to you about some crochet, and I have a finished object for sewing as well. If that doesn't do it for you as far as knitting content goes and crafty content, I don't know what will. And then in the second half of this episode, I am going to be talking to you about Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I will be sharing with you some of the nitty yarning goodness, a little bit of vlogging, a little bit of touring around Scotland, and lots of squishes. Well, hello, how are you? Have you missed me? I've missed you. Yes, I have. I really have. I've been, especially Edinburgh Yarn Festival, right? Because so many exciting things were happening. And I was like, I want to tell. And I couldn't because I couldn't podcast, and a lot of people were there. So it's not like I could tap someone on the shoulder and go, hi, guess what? I'm at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And they'd be like, yeah, you are. We all are. Oh my goodness, it was awesome, totally awesome. But we're going to leave that to the other side of the podcast. We are going to start, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, with normal creative content. For new viewers who have never met me before, hi. Welcome. I am normally a little bit calmer than this, but buckle up your seatbelts, enjoy the ride. What can I say? It's lovely of you to check the podcast out. The podcast is primarily about knitting, but ostensibly about all things to do with creative arts and like fibre crafts. Creative arts, that's like singing and dancing. And well, I mean, some of that does happen as well, but it's not really what this podcast's about. It is primarily about knitting and crochet, a little bit of spinning, but less said about that the better at the moment, and fibre arty stuff. There's often some sewing as well, both of the machine kind and the hand kind, and occasionally there are some other bits and pieces going on each month as well. I've got a segment called Level Up in which I try a new craft each month, or a new thing, a new skill. And I check in with the podcast about once a month on that. Although thinking about it, I'm not going to talk about that this week. So lovely of you to join us. I do speak quickly. Subtitles can't keep up with me. I'm working on it. I am a hand dyer myself. I dye the Project Bag yarns. I make the Project Bags. I need to rethink how I say that. I also design knitting patterns. I've got a couple out and a couple are eagerly awaiting their publication date. Very exciting. And I teach knitting and crochet and sort of crafty courses around my local town, which is Maidstone in Kent. So that's me. Fair warning, you've probably already guessed it, there's usually a fair bit of nonsense here as well. One of my friends, Aileen, was telling me at the weekend that when she watches the podcast, she tries her best to help me out when I can't say words. She'll be going, it's this, it's this, it's this. And of course I can't hear her, and it's a couple of days later, but yeah, so yeah, there's a bit of that. Anyway, welcome. I hope that I haven't scared you off already. If I haven't, grab something to work on. Maybe nothing too high concentration, because I will not take responsibility if I put you off, okay? You've had fair warning, folks, fair warning. And maybe something to drink. So because I'm nothing if not original, I'm going to start by talking about what's in my mug. My mug says choose happy. Now, it isn't as simple as this. You can't just wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to be happy, and it magically happens. I think we all live in the real world. We know there's things like anxiety, depression, things that go on in our lives that just don't make that possible. However, I'm drinking from this mug because I chose to step out of my comfort zone this last weekend, very, very soon after a personal tough week for me, when I didn't really want to people and I didn't even really want to knit. I know, shocker, right? But yeah, I chose to do something, and it has made me very smiley and very bouncy, and hopefully brought you a fun podcast. In this mug, because there's sunshine behind you, there is glorious sunshine. I have no studio lights, not that you can see that, but there's no studio lights. We're trying to record with natural light today. Do let me know what you think down below. I mean, it's getting a bit late. The sun is starting to set. I'm just looking out the window. Sorry, looking over your heads there. So I think it might be enough for us to show off the pretties a bit later on. But yeah, do let me know if it starts to get a bit darker. Oh, I don't know what I'll do. Maybe pause and put the studio lights up. It would be nice not to have to faff about with that each week. Anyway, in my mug is... How did I get onto the weather? Oh yes, it's because it is an iced macchiato type thingy cappuccino. It's only from the corner shop. It's a Starbucks one in the glass bottle, which, yay for recycling. But it's sunny, and I've mowed the lawn today, and so therefore a cold iced coffee is exactly what you want. Question though, if I make myself a coffee and it goes cold, which it inevitably does while I'm talking to you guys on the podcast, I don't like it. So why is it that I like this pre-chilled coffee? Someone explain that to me. Comments just down below. Oh, and actually, talking about just down below, just down there, you should find everywhere that you could possibly wish to find me if you want to. So Instagram, the blog, yeah, maybe don't mention the blog at the moment, the Etsy shop where you can find my hand-dyed yarns, my Ravelry page, my Ravelry designer page, the group. Oh, join in with the group. Everyone's really, really friendly and not quite as mad as me. And all the information about cast-ons, no, not cast-ons, knit-alongs and things going on there as well. Everything's just down there. Yeah, just down there. I think there. And maybe there's a subscribe button there. Possibly it's there. I'm not sure. But if you want to, that would be totally awesome. Okay, so it is caffeinated. I've had an awful lot of coffee over the past week. I have driven well over 1,500 miles. I've driven there and back to Scotland and back. Those 2 trips took me about 25 hours all told. And I know there are people who live in America who are like, what? That's nothing. But, you know, for little old me, that's quite a way. So I'm having to wean myself down from the caffeine carefully, because otherwise I'll just get massive migraines, which is just not fun. And no one likes me when I'm caffeine deprived and I've gone cold turkey. No one. Trust me. Not sure? Pop back to a previous episode to tell you about what happened when I gave up coffee for Lent. That was messy. Oh, just before I get into the main podcast stuff, I should also talk about our cows that are going on. We have 2 cows going on this year at the moment. I mean, there will be more. They are both long-term cows. They each have at least 3 ways to win prizes, which is super duper exciting. They are both happening in the Ravelry group. Link just down there. And yeah, very exciting. First one, started first, was the fan club cow. This was to celebrate anything that you are a fan of other than knitting, okay? So books, shows, plays, people. It could be knitting, sewing, cross stitch, spinning, crochet, anything kind of fiberarty that is related to being a fan of something. So for example, my entry, or it would be an entry if I could enter, but I can't because it's my competition, I'm going to play along anyway in spirit, is a pair of Nelly socks designed by Ellie of Skein Deer Knits, and I am doing these in Gryffindor colours. I'm using blacker yarns in a red and a gold colour, and that would be my entry. Okay, if you were spinning, I have a braid called Mother of Dragons from Cat and Sparrow fibres that I purchased at Fibre East a couple of years ago. That could work. You could knit Hermione's everyday socks. You could knit an Outlander shawl. You could be doing a cross stitch of David Tennant's face, because let's face it, David Tennant, best Doctor Who. Am I right? I'm right, aren't I? I mean, you know, he's a talented actor, and well, he's very talented too. Yeah, so you could be doing that, and that would be totally fine. And so I'm gonna like jump in here and say I'm sorry if I fidget a lot today. I am so sore from all the driving, and actually having to sit down is not fun. Right, so that's the fan club, Cal. Ways to win: get into the chatter thread. Prizes are going to be drawn for people interacting and talking to one another in there. FO Fred is about to be opened, or even the thread. I don't know who Fred is, but he's not involved. That's about to be opened, and I said there were 3 ways to win, didn't I? I'm going to have to check the rules. Maybe there's only 2 ways to win, but there are multiple opportunities because I'm going to draw from the chatter thread every couple of months too. So there's that one. The next one is the lace along, which I know have got some of you very, very excited, and I'm so excited to see what you are making. There are some really exquisite patterns being cast on. For my part, I have not touched My Shawl for an Art Lover by Carrie Westerman, although I have touched Carrie Westerman. I mean, hugged her. I have hugged Carrie Westerman. I was very, very lucky to meet her. I'll tell you more about that later. Can't show you the shawl myself because nothing's happened to it. Lots of ways to win if you use my yarns or Ellen's yarns, who is no longer Mrs. Lamb's yarns. She is going by this, which I'm not going to butcher in my caffeinated state. Sorry, Ellen, I can't. I love you too much to even attempt it. I'll get you to teach me. So if you use my yarn, either my 4-ply or my lace weight, or you use Ellen's 4-ply yarn, then you get an extra entry into this cal. The only requirement for the lace along is that it obviously has an element of lace, and that, or I should say requirements, plural, shouldn't I? Because I'm already on to the second one. The other requirement is that actually it's a challenge for you. So if you have never knit lace before, then some eyelet lace in a jumper is actually going to be quite tricky, perhaps, or quite challenging. However, if you have knit lots of lace before, then doing a couple of knit 2 togethers yarn overs, I'm sorry my lovely, that isn't going to cut the mustard. Where's that phrase come from, by the way, cut the mustard? Anyone tell me? This is going to be one of those week skits. Yes, it is. Yeah, so you know for yourselves whether or not the project you have chosen is a challenge, so I will let your conscience be the one to weigh down on you when you put your entry in. So anyway, that's one way to win, is use our yarns. Second way to win, get involved in the chatter thread, talk to one another. You're more active, you're engaging, you're responding to people, encouraging people, you've got more chances to win. Yes, you do. Third way, finished objects. Yes, there will be a finished object thread. I'm not opening that yet because I've decided that it's just unreasonable for any of you to have already finished when I've barely started. So there you go. You've got no business finishing yet. Again, crochet does also count. Of course it does. You get some really exquisite lace work in crochet, and it's just totally mind-boggling. What a skill. So yeah, looking forward to seeing those too. All right, we are 15 minutes in. Shall we have some knitting? Shall we talk about my finished object? Just over a month before a little event that was happening in a little town, in a little country up north somewhere, I was challenged by the queen of challenges and arbitrary numbers herself, Amy Florence of the Stranded Dyers podcast, to complete a weekender for that little event that was happening. I had just over 3 weeks. She said that's plenty of time, or just over a month, one of the two. It was when we were at Unravel. She said, oh, that's plenty of time. So I didn't actually pick it up until almost 2 weeks later. I cast it on the 4th or 5th of March. But, ladies and gentlemen, I finished my weekender. I did, I succeeded, I managed it, and here we go. Whoop. there's extra length on it as well. And you will not be disappointed, ladies and gentlemen. You will be pleased to know that all is still right in Project Bag Land, because I have, ladies and gents, a flippy bottom. That is a flippy bottom right there. You see it's curled up under itself. That was unflattering, wasn't it? There we are. See? And would it be a sweater knit by me if it didn't have a slightly flippy bottom? Oh, I'm so pleased with myself. I make no apologies for this. I am pleased with myself. Amy threw down the gauntlet. I picked it up and I've whooped it. Yes, I have. The pattern is by Andrea Mowry, which is Drerine Knits. I will put a picture of the original up there, where she's looking very fetching on a woodland walk, far more glamorous than I look when I'm stumping about in the countryside, but there we are. I've knit it a couple of inches longer than it should have been. I have also opted for like 3/4/ elbow length sleeves. Reason being, I'm one of these that I'm always with my sleeves, so it was pointless me knitting a longer one just to do that with, and I'd just ruin it. So I did that. So it's not that I did less knitting. Before some of you going, oh, but did you really meet the challenge if you didn't do full length sleeves? I did longer on the body, and actually I knit one of the sleeves twice, so there. I did plenty of knitting, thank you very much. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the way the fabric is for the yarn I've chosen. I don't think it flatters me at all, and I Kitchener stitched the front off far too tight, so it's a little bit like I'm being dragged backwards by my own jumper. That said, people at this little event that happened were very, very complimentary about it, and you know, I'm starting to like it a little bit more. It took me just under 3 weeks to knit, and it took me one 400-gram ball of Hayfield Bonus Aran, which is a wool acrylic blend Aran weight. I got the balls of yarn 3 for 2 from Hobbycraft, so that means that it cost under a tenner to knit as well. I knit the first size because the sweater is designed to have 10 inches of positive ease. I didn't want 10 inches of positive ease. So I did the first size, which would give me 4 inches of positive ease. I am a 38-inch bust, I think, ish. I'm not sure. Who measures? I know we should, but who honestly really does? Not me. Certainly not for a long while. So it was going to give me around about 4 inches of positive ease. In hindsight, I should have just gone for the bigger size because I think it would have hung better and draped better. It kind of looks not deliberately boxy or baggy now, but it looks kind of like I've just bought a size too big for some unknown reason. But I really like the yarn I used. I like the cost being, you know, under a tenner. That is totally affordable. I didn't have much of the ball left, so if you were going to knit something other than the first size, I would recommend getting 2 balls. So that's 2 400-gram balls, although it wouldn't take much. But still, even if you did that, that's still a sweater for under 20 quid. I think that's pretty good, don't you? I really like the colour. It's showing up really nicely here, actually. I'm quite surprised by that. Let me put my face behind it. Will it focus? Has it lost focus again? No, we're okay. Can you see it's kind of a red, purple, almost marl, the way it's plied together. And it's actually, I can't really show you very clearly, but it's actually got blue in it as well. Sorry, I'm looking at the yarn, not at you. How rude. I know, it's fine. Yeah, so it's got the kind of bright blue going through it as well, which just looks really, really fab. The sweater itself the body is reverse stocking stitch with this faux seam going up the top, going up the front and the back. It has a split high-low hem, and the sleeves are done in regular stocking stitch and it's got this fun detail across the top, a ribbing detail across the top, which is really nice. Shall I pop it on? I'll pop it on. Give me a sec. Hello, here we are. So this is the Weekender. As you can see, it's a little bit tight up here. It's a little bit wanting to strangle me. it's not as flattering or wide open as I've seen lots of people with their weekenders. A lot of them the neck seems to come across here a bit more, but I think I just Kitchener stitched it up a bit too tight. I was quite nervous. I also did it on the wrong size needles. It says to do it on 4.5 for this, or was it a 5? It might have been a 5 and I went down to a 4.5, or a 4.5 and I went down to a 4. Either way, I did it full half size smaller needles. I thought that would be okay because I am typically a very loose knitter. Unfortunately, I think the overall thing was to make it just a wee bit tight. But yeah, so the shoulders are kind of dropped. They come halfway down your arms, and the sleeves come just past my elbow. I did not do any shaping on the sleeves at all. It wasn't for speed, it was personal choice. I have quite big arms. I will do very, very well at bingo in a few years' time, so I won't hear a word said against them. I'm bingo ready. Bingo ready. So yeah, I'll stand up and show you the length and show you how it fits, and you can see what you think. I'm not fishing for compliments here. It's going to be a chuck it on around the house sweater. It may even become a Dye Studio sweater, who knows. I wore it with pride at EYF, having achieved my goal of getting it done, and I think that's all I really wanted. Let me leap up and show you. So here we have a rather unflattering wide expanse, of purple. It is, I mean, I like the colour. The thing I don't like about the yarn is it's got these bits here. Don't know if it's going to focus. And it just looks like it's grubby. It's not. It's little bits of white, almost undyed, that are still within it. And it looks a bit like I've just allowed it to get fluffy and a bit messy. You can see the ease there. It is about 4 inches positive ease, well, a bit more than that over the bust. I am a loose knitter, as I said. And it comes down to just below my pocket line on my jeans. Just about covers up my bum. It's not quite as long as I'd hoped for, but it's long enough. So it just about comes down to about there. It's all right, you know, it's all right. It'll do. Hello. People seem to think that it suits me. It's definitely cozy. I managed to wear it during the festival on the Saturday, although to be fair, I didn't go into the marketplace much at all on the Saturday. So yeah, all in all, it's a success. I can't really complain, can I? So the pattern was written really simply, really easy to follow, definitely worth it. And there were lots of weekenders about that weekend, so clearly it's on trend. Okay, so I think I might just leave it on for now because it's just easier than faffing about putting it on and taking it off. Let's get on with the rest of the knitting and crochet and sewing content. I'm actually, because it's of the FO, going to pop my sewing FO in here as well for you. Would you please accompany me to a Sunsplash garden on Thursday evening, having just arrived in Stirling. Okay, so here I am. I've arrived in Stirling. It's been almost 12 hours on the road. I am pretty exhausted, but I wanted to show off my latest finished object, which I haven't had a chance to record yet because I only finished it yesterday, and it is going to a lovely lady at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Oh, tonight actually we're meeting up. Excuse the orange, I was testing out foundation in the shop. So here it is. It is made out of a wool tweed fabric, woven fabric. It's absolutely gorgeous. I will say, can't lie. Oh, thank you, Crow. Marcus, I have a crow here in Stirling too. I can't lie. It's an absolute pig to work with because it moves and it twists, and you try and cut the fabric square, but the weave isn't actually square, so then you've got your lines going everywhere, so you try and cut it with your lines, and then you interface it and the fabric moves when you interface it, and yeah, there have been tears doing this. It is my first time working with the fabric. I did a mock-up in ordinary cotton, but actually what I needed to do is learn a lot more about this sort of fabric. But anyway, here it is. It's looking a bit squished because it's been in the car. If I turn it around, maybe it stands a bit prouder. Whoops. Yeah, hang on, it's collapsing. Right, it's a little bit squished and sorry for itself because it has been in the car for 12 hours and it fell off the back seat in the bag that I was protecting it in. So we've got this two-tone fabric, this kind of hot pink red with this beautiful tartany fabric. Just little canvas handles, just for ease of use.
zip pull at the top to help you open the zip, which I'm now going to demonstrate with my massive thumbs. And inside it is fully lined. I think, and the lining is padded. I think what I do next time is work out a way of actually attaching the lining. What I do next time is work out a way of attaching the lining to the bag, and that might help it stand a bit better. But there are also 2 patch pockets in there, and this one on the right is the perfect size for your mobile phone. I've tested it with my mobile phone and left a little bit extra for those who have complete bricks, and that's it really. So as you can see from the side, we've done a fairly good job of pattern matching all the way down. I'm quite pleased with that. My little handmade by the Project Bag badge. It is box bottomed, and I've actually put some reinforcement in the bottom to help it stay flat. And yeah, all it needs is a jolly good press, which I'm not in a position to do now, but I will hand it over to the lovely Jeanette. Will have handed it over by the time you guys see this. And yeah, there we are.
Well, I hope that little bit of video was interesting for you. I do have some tips for working with that sort of woven fabric. I think you need to really stretch it first to make sure that it's straight, because it does move. I'd been really careful to cut it so it was square, but also so that the line of the check was actually level for the bit I was going to sew. Sorry, cat was knocking over the tripod. Yeah, the fabric actually moves, and when we reinforced it with the interfacing, it actually moved again and became kind of wonky and stretched. It was a bit of a pig to work with, to be honest with you. So yeah, if you're going to work with that fabric, make sure it's stretched really well to make sure it's square and it's not going to move anymore. Reinforce it probably before cutting it. I would even go so far as to say perhaps. Yeah, it was tricky. The design was my own, but adapted from a design from Debbie Shaw. I will link the tutorial video just down below for you. It's quite old. She knocks up the bag in 20 minutes and it's thoroughly irritating. She's lovely. It's just, it took me a lot longer than 20 minutes to make this. Having said that, she had already cut out the fabric, so cheating, right? Totally cheating. And she doesn't pin anything either. She's like, oh, you know, if you want to pin it, you can. And I'm there with pins sticking out of my mouth going, what's all right for you, expert? There are already things I'd like to do differently about the bag. I would reduce the height. I would put stud feet on the bottom and try and arrange some sort of shoulder strap. I would also reinforce the bottom half a lot more firmly, and try and incorporate some sort of zipped pocket or pen pocket or something, just to make it a little bit more user-friendly. But the lady who I gave it to, the lovely Jeanette, was absolutely thrilled with it. She's promised me some feedback. I've made her promise not to be too nice either, because I need to know these things. So there may be a few of that sort of style available at the Wool Monty later in the summer. We shall have to see. I'm making no promises. None at all. I've kept my promise for the year, which was the weekender. That's me done. The next thing I've got to show you was meant to be an FO for Saturday and handed over. So I did some recording of it before I went to Scotland. It isn't finished. It also hasn't got much further than when I recorded. So I am just going to pop that little bit of video in for you as well. And we also talk a little bit about crochet and where you stick your hook and why that matters. So hopefully you will enjoy that for a couple of moments.
Hiya. I just thought I'd record this while it's still in process, because I know I'm going to want to talk about it on the podcast and I'm not going to be able to, because this will have been given away by that point. You may recognise this project if you've watched the podcast before. This is the Eloise girls cardigan that I am making for Lou and for her daughter Phoebe. She was asking if someone would be able to make it for her late last year, just coming up to November. And I said, well, if you are happy to wait a while, then I'm more than happy to do it. It will certainly be a bit mutual back scratchy, because I can then talk about crochet on the podcast. It makes a bit of a difference from granny squares. So I have almost finished the skirt. I've actually already finished it once, but I wasn't quite happy with the stitch work on one part of it, so I pulled it back and have redone it. But what I am here to show you today is how this pleat effect is actually created, because they aren't pleats. Can you see? There's no fold in there at all. With crochet, essentially what it is sticking your hook in a hole, and depending which hole you stick it in your work, you get a different result. So I thought, as I've got the skirt here to show you, I would show you the different effects created with crochet. So this blue is doubles or trebles, depending which side of the pond you're from. And it's formed by wrapping the yarn around the hook, inserting the hook into the work, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through. That gives you 3 loops on the hook. You wrap the yarn, pull through 2, wrap the yarn, pull through 2. Now, depending on where you put your hook, you get a different result. So if I was to just work it into the front of the stitch for a couple of stitches, you'll be able to see the difference. So wrap the yarn over the hook, insert the hook into the work. I'm just going straight from the front to the back, wrap the yarn, pull through 2, wrap the yarn, pull through 2. Okay, I'm going to do that a couple more times so there's a clear difference to show you. Okay, so hopefully you can already see the difference. These last 4 stitches I've done, I've worked through the entirety of the stitch below from front to back, whereas these guys have been worked just into the back loop, and that's what creates this ridge here. So here we don't have it. So if I was to have done this, it would just be completely flat and wouldn't have that pleated effect. So where do we stick our hook? The nice thing about crochet is that you can just pull it back if you make a mistake. It's really forgiving. You don't have to spend ages fandangling picking up stitches. You essentially just stick the yarn back on the hook and away you go. So if I turn the crochet this way, you should just be able to see, if I bring it close enough to the camera, that you've got these. Let's take the hook out, that might help. If I insert the hook under here, can you see they're almost like knit stitches? The edge of the crochet. Focus please. There we are. These are almost like knit stitches. And these are the loops that we're talking about having been created. It's really trying to focus and it's not having a great time of it. Now, to do the stitches I showed you before, I inserted the hook under both. Now typically that's the best way to do it because your yarn can't stretch the previous stitch too far. It makes for a nice anchored stitch. However, to work through the back loop, what we want to do is insert our hook just in that one, so the loop that is furthest away from you on your V. Okay, so let's work our double or treble again. We are sat on my lounge floor today. This is very casual. So we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and we are going to insert it under that back loop there. Grab the yarn, pull it through. Can you see already that's pulled right up? Wrap the yarn, pull through 2, wrap the yarn, pull through 2. And that is what gives us our ridge stitch. So the yarn I'm using for this is Stylecraft Special Aran Weight. It's the yarn specifically requested by Lou because it's very hard wearing. It is acrylic based, but this will stand up to use and it can go in the washing machine, and it means that rather than Hours of Love going into a garment that's going to actually be really hard to take care of, this is going to get used lots and lots. And also, hopefully, it will be passed on to other children perhaps when Phoebe has finished with it, or maybe it can fit a larger doll. I don't know if she's into dolls at all, probably not. or, you know, a family member, someone else who could use it, or perhaps even go to a charity shop where it will be bought by someone and reused and then maybe passed down. Who knows? I know there are mixed opinions about acrylic yarn. Personally, I think there's a place for it. I have my very first crochet granny square blanket that my grandma crocheted for me when I was 2 out of a Serdar yarn. It may have actually been Peter Pan, thinking about it. And I still have that blanket. It is very much loved and it will never go to landfill. So anyway, I digress a bit. And the hook I'm using is a 5mm hook because that's what's specified for the pattern. And as you can see, I've got a gazillion ends to weave in, so I'm going to have a bit of time once I've finished this skirt for the second time. And you have here the completed effect of the pleat, almost like a rainbow, and it will wrap round like so to form the skirt of the cardigan, kind of cardigan jacket. And once I finish that, I will be picking up here for the bodice. It looks a little bit like an empire line. I know you're looking at this upside down, so am I. But there we are. So that is the difference, working in the back loop as opposed to working in the front. I hope you found that interesting. Back to the podcast. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I had the great pleasure of meeting Lou, whose little girl I am making that cardigan for, and giving her a big squish on Saturday at the festival. It was so lovely to meet you, Lou. I really hope that you had a good time and that you are not suffering too much for all the movement and strain of getting around that festival. I hope you're well. Okay, so while I was at Edinburgh, I primarily worked on this, certainly until the Friday night. But then Saturday through Sunday, I was working on my Spindrift shawl, which is just that pink, looks so neon. I promise it's not actually that neon, it's really much more gentle. I don't know why my phone insists on making it look like that. If it's looking a bit scrunched up and sorry for itself, that's because it is. I got as far, so there's the top. I got as far as the lace, and then I realised that I had read the pattern incorrectly, totally my fault, and missed the garter ridge just before the lace. So I'd done a few rows, done the lace, realised what I'd done wrong, and I had to pull back several rows to get to just before the lace again. So the whole thing came off the needles and just got ripped back on Wednesday night, because otherwise this would have been very close to being an FO for you as well. But maybe we can spread the FO joy out. This is being knit in my hand dyed yarn in the Myra colourway. There are a couple of skeins available in the shop, and until Sunday, if you spend more than £35, you get free postage. That's both international and domestic. Shameless plug. So yeah, if you'd like to support me and buy my yarn, that'd be awesome. And I love it. What I really like, I mean, it's a one skein project, so I'm not alternating, is that there's not really any pooling going on. It just seems really well variegated. I don't know what would happen in a garment where obviously, I mean, this is extending each time. I don't know what it'd be like in socks or as a garment. I'm sure there must be some sort of pooling that would happen then. But as it happens for this project, it's looking really, really good. So as you can see, it's got eyelet detail all along the top, and it will have eyelets and garter ridging with a picot edging at the bottom there. So this is the Spindrift shawl by Helen Stewart, who goes by Curious Handmade. It is a one skein pattern. One of the things I love about the pattern is you can tick off as you go, and it tells you your percentage, like how far percentage wise you are into the project, which I think is super cool. Although between 45 and 50%, it was a real slog, because obviously the rows are getting that much longer each time, so you're up to 250 odd stitches, and each row takes quite a while. So yeah, I've just finished fixing that today. That's why the stitch markers are there. I am using them. I've put them every 50 stitches to help me keep track
of where I am, so I can work out where on the pattern I am and hopefully pick that up and finish that this weekend. So maybe I will have an FO for you for next week, but definitely look out for this at the Wool Monty. It is going to be a booth sample. You're more than welcome to come and try it on and have a squish. I'm looking forward to seeing how it blocks out. I am not a fan of the fabric I'm getting from using 4-ply yarn with a 4mm needle. When I knit DK, I very rarely use a 4mm needle, so why I didn't automatically go down a needle size for this, I honestly don't know. It was during the cast on party. For those of you that don't know, I decided it'd be a really good idea to give up casting on things for Lent. My other friend, Ellen, hashtag it's all Ellen's fault, decided it'd be a great idea to have a cast on party the night before and cast on all the things. And we did. Oh yes, we did. So I was in a mad rush to cast on. I was not swatching. I didn't swatch for this. I didn't swatch for anything. I just went for it. And I think because it was a shawl, I decided the gauge really wouldn't matter. So I just used the size needles recommended. Actually, I'm really not happy with the fabric I'm getting here. We'll see what happens when it's washed and blocked and whether or not it blooms. I may have to make another one of these, but with smaller needles. We shall see. So not quite an FO, but it's close. Oh yeah. And that is living in my Yarns of Anarchy project bag made by Emma's Nice Things for Laura, who is Yarns of Anarchy. You can order these on her website. I have the small size, which more than happily fits my shawl project in, and that is just £12. So if you fancy one of those, and it's great for pins, and I will talk about pins a little bit later because I have 1 or 2 new ones to share with you. The other whip that saw some action while I was in Edinburgh was actually this sock, and I did not knit on it. There we are. This is the second sock of my Dragon Hill Studio self-striping socks in the Pink Dahlia colourway. I didn't actually knit on it. Someone we met, I believe, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, I'm terrible with names. I think it's Susie or Suzanne, was over from Canada with her sister Dominique, and they had come to the festival without any knitting with them. I mean, what? So they were sat on their lunch break watching me and my friends knit and feeling a little bit envious. I said, it's fine, I've got 5 projects in my bag, what do you fancy? A bit of stockinette sweater action, a sock, a pattern sock, 2 circular needles, double pointed needles, I can fix you up. So she had a go at knitting my sock. She has, by her own admission, never knit using the 2 circular sock method, and she absolutely loved it. So I had a little bit of an impromptu knitting lesson going on there. I'm not entirely sure how appropriate that was. But hey, the woman had no knitting and she had at least an hour to kill until her class. What was she supposed to do? Just talk to people? So yeah, that saw some action as well. And that is everything that I'm allowed to show you. I am working very, very hard on some little extras for Verity, who is the project... No, I'm the project bag. Verity, who is truly hooked. She does alternating months. She does a theme box and a Lush Club box. So this month is a theme box and the theme is Grey's Anatomy. And she approached me to ask if I would be interested in supplying the extras for the theme box this month. I was like, yes, of course, how awesome. So thank you very much, Verity. Those are going to be posted out within the next week or so. As in from Verity, I've got to get them to Verity by then. So I can't tell you what they are. What I can say is that I really love them. And as soon as they are with the people who have ordered the theme boxes and the big reveal's done, I will be talking about them because it's something new that will hopefully be coming to the Project Bag store as well. So I'm sorry to be so cryptic, but that is the other thing I've been working on behind the scenes, and it's just, I can't show you, and I really want to show you because I'm so excited. Oh, it's hard life, isn't it? Yeah, I got too hot. It's too warm. It's beautiful spring weather and I mowed the lawn for the first time today, and as I'm mowing it I'm thinking, I'm going to have to put my sweaters away. Some of my friends are thinking of washing their sweaters today so that they can dry in the sunshine, which is just lovely. I should really do my socks. It's just wrong. They really need washing. Oh, So that is it for finished objects and whips. There is no level up because I've been so focused on the weekend I haven't done any lace. We'll be moving into stash acquisitions next, of which there are a couple, believe it or not. So that is going to start talking about Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So if that is not the sort of thing that you guys are interested in, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you have enjoyed yourselves and got some knitting done, or crochet, or whatever it is you're choosing to work on. And I hope to see you next time. If you haven't subscribed already and would maybe be interested in doing so, it helps my channel get seen, it helps my work get seen. I'd really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed your time with me today, hitting that thumbs up button just down below would also be a really great help to me. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we are going to dive straight into acquisitions. I already can't show you one of them because I don't know where it is. And it's this gorgeous Aran book. I picked it up in a charity shop and I love it. I was reading it and when I should have been doing other things. It talks about the history of Aran knitting as well. So I am going to do a bit of a special review on that next time. I don't think the book's in print anymore, but I would like to share what I've learnt from it because it's just so interesting. And I love me a cable. Oh, I love me a cable. Yes, I do. Anyone else like cables here? I love them. I can't cast it on until after Lent, of course, but right at the top of my things I'm going to cast on as soon as Lent's over list, regardless of how many FOs I have. Although, having said that, I've finished one of my pre-Lenten cast-ons and I'm nearly finished another, so I'm doing quite well. But right at the top of my list is this cardie that Ellie is doing, Scandia Knits, and it's all over cables and I can't remember the name. I will try and find it and put it here. If there's nothing appearing there, it's because I couldn't remember enough about it to be able to do it. Yeah, so that's going to happen. So I guess the next thing to talk about is acquisitions, and they kind of all happened at Edinburgh. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this. It might end up being a ridiculously long episode if I try and incorporate the vlog stuff here as well, but there isn't enough vlogging really to make it its own vlog. So just stop wittering on, Gemma, and just get on with it. Or should I make this 2 parts? Maybe the first part should be the ordinary knitting stuff and this part should be the EYF stuff. Well, you'll find out, won't you, how I've decided to do it.